Hello there. Time travel again, very dangerous thing. I cannot stress enough. If you can avoid doing it, do so. Any involvement, any entanglement with those damn temporal agents, the last thing anyone wants is to have a sit-down meeting with temporal investigations. One such event that luckily would have avoided this scenario, although if they were still in the Alpha Quadrant, probably not, and I bet when they got back, Janeway and others did have to have such a sit-down, was the encounter with the UTS Aeon. Now, UTS may be from an alternate timeline, it may be Apocrypha. Basically, this prefix stands for United Timeship. It is referenced as this, but is never actually displayed anywhere, so it may not be canonical. Bear that in mind. But the UTS Aeon. This was a small, I'm going to say combat ship of some description, built in the 29th century and used by Captain Braxton and the United Federation of Planets, Starfleet, specifically for the Temporal Integrity Commission. The ship was designed to travel through time via temporal rifts in space-time, allowing it to traverse huge distances as well as space. This ship was seen to pop up both at Earth and deep in the Delta Quadrant in different centuries, both launched in the 29th century, indicating either the vessel's very damn fast and just travels through time wherever it is, or more likely, as it was able to return Voyager to the Delta Quadrant in the correct time period at the right time, it's likely able to shift the position of the rift, as space is also relative to this vessel. It's not entirely clear how it does that, but it can, as are many technologies about this fascinating little ship. Now we'll get to Captain Braxton and Henry Starling in future videos, but the Aeon itself is an interesting little ship. It's about the same size as a sort of slightly large Federation shuttle. It is definitely warp capable, although its exact capabilities at speed are unknown. It has shields which are very powerful for a vessel of its size, but are vulnerable even to 24th century Federation Starfleet technology. It is equipped, that we know of, with a single energy disruptor, which is powerful enough to destroy a vessel like an Intrepid class starship, but Braxton was outsmarted by the crew of Voyager, and they managed to create a feedback that disabled the ship and drew both vessels into the rift. That's again in another story. The vessel travelled back in time to the 29th century when it discovered the entire Sol system in the 29th century had been destroyed, but wreckage from the USS Voyager from the 24th century was found by Captain Braxton. This implies that this ship does definitely have at least temporal shielding, or maybe some kind of temporal phasing or temporal core that allows it to at least stay slightly unaffected by changes in the timeline. Without thinking, Braxton went back in time and tried to destroy Voyager, leading to the chain of events that would ultimately possibly lead to the destruction of the Sol system, something he would eventually work out, but nonetheless. He arrived in the 1960s, whereas Voyager dropped out of the time displacement in the 1990s. We saw a similar thing happen with the Narada and the Jellyfish, actually arriving at different points in the timeline. Now, this actually resulted in the computer revolution of the late 20th century, as Henry Starling, with an almost Neanderthal level of smashing at buttons in the Aeon, was able to reverse engineer, or at least become inspired by, indicating that Starling was a very intelligent man, to reverse engineer this technology or even comprehend it, to be able to have ideas of your own, indicates he was intelligent. Whether we like that or not, that'll be covered in another video. He was able to adapt technology from it that inspired all technical computer developments in the late 20th century, and would have and continue to influence human computer sciences going forward, which is fascinatingly circular stuff when you think about it. If it wasn't for this advancement, then the Aeon would have never have had computer technology that was quite as advanced as what it had in the first place to go back in time to inspire it. Weird. The ship was under the possession of Starling for 30 years, where he dabbled and repaired it and tried to figure out his systems, eventually learning how to time travel with the intention of going forward in time to take technology back to his own time and create a new divergent timeline once again. He was stopped by this by Voyager destroying his vessel with a photon torpedo. This destroyed his ship and collapsed the rift and killed Starling. Voyager was then returned to its own time period, but the ship itself was also restored thanks to the fact that it was destroyed which restored the original timeline. You saw Braxton once again come back. He'd be reintegrated with his past self. Time travel is complicated. Avoid it. It's messy. The ship was extremely sophisticated, had various handheld weapons kept on board it, as well as other technologies. Braxton was able to adapt holographic projection technologies, even creating the mobile emitter, something they couldn't create even in the 24th century. Again, inspiring technical developments centuries later as that technology was returned to the 24th century. Even that technology would inspire development with the Borg when it was assimilated, although luckily not by the full collective, and resulted in the most advanced drone ever known to exist. Just showing just how much more advanced this vessel was than anything we had in the 24th century, and certainly anything that was in the 20th century. A very powerful, very sophisticated little ship, but clearly was really just a shuttlecraft from a bigger vessel like a Wells class, which is what I think more realistically the Aeon was. It may have been a vessel designed to decrease the footprint it has in the past. I would also assume in some level that this vessel has some kind of cloaking technology for when it does have to go back in time, so no one can detect it, because you won't really want these things interacting with anyone, or you'd want to limit the amount of interaction you'd have to have. If you have to go to the point of sending the ship back in time in the first place, you'd want to limit how much temporal contamination of the timeline you're actually going to have just by the ship being there. And I'm going to guess it's probably got a self-destruct system as well. These are guesses, but it probably does, as we see many Federation ships have this ability in order to prevent their technology falling into the hands of those that shouldn't have it, especially a time ship. It probably also may have had some kind of automated locator, as a technology we saw similar in the 22nd century with another future ship, although be it from a little further in the future, a temporal communicator that allowed people to lock onto it in the future and return it. It's likely this ship would have had a similar fail-safe system. Whether or not it had some of the same technology, just pure hypothetical here, as I've just thought of it, which could have potentially meant the inside of the ship was bigger, and maybe Starling just never found it, or we just never saw it. I don't think so, because I think Starling would have found it, but I'm just saying it's possible. The inside of the ship could have been just as big as Voyager for all we know. But that's pure speculation. I honestly don't think that's the case. I don't think this ship had that ability, but it's an interesting speculation. It's interesting to think. We know that vessels like the Enterprise J had the ability to grow shuttlecrafts inside them, basically replicate them. Was a ship like the Relativity, which we know was even further in the future, able to just replicate a little ship like the Aeon and send it back? It's hard to say. One thing I can say is he did this off his own back without consulting anyone else that was around at the time. No other time agents or anyone else. It's possible. Predestination paradox. Again, time hurts your head. Time travel. Just avoid it, people. Say no to time travel. So, that is the time ship Aeon. Fascinating, powerful little ship. The Delta Flyer of the Temporal Integrity Commission, shall we say. It was a very useful utility little ship. Despite its small size, it was able to take on much bigger vessels and punch well above its weight, thanks to the very advanced technology that it was carrying, which we never really saw the full capabilities of. It's likely the ship had massive abilities we simply knew nothing about. But that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did watch all the way to the end, I thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and bye bye.